Jedi Squadron is a podcast run by the Anime Secrets website. Check us out at animesecrets.org for more anime, video game, tokusatsu, and now Star Wars content. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts today.
Hello, new Padawans, and welcome to the Jedi Squadron podcast. Here, you will be taking lessons in the many pieces of the Star Wars universe, whether it be the movies, animated series, video games, comics, and etc. This is your training into becoming a Star Wars fan as part of the Jedi Squadron. May your training go well, and may the Force be with you, young Padawans.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Jedi Squadron, hosted by animesecrets.org. I'm your host, Rizwan Merchant, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Nathan Desau, and a really special guest for the podcast. This is our first guest for the podcast, and I'm really excited to introduce my longtime friend, Mr. Jon Russo, who, in the past, he was the owner and organizer for MechaCon over in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I'm really happy to have him here today to talk about what I think will be a very interesting topic, the Disney Galactic Starcruiser, which recently was announced to be setting down later this year. So without further ado, Nate, John, if you'll want to say hello, and we can kind of kick off.
Hello.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, I just want to get y'all a quick chance to say hi before we jump into stuff. But so I don't know a lot about.
You use this correctly. This is a Star Wars podcast. Hello there,
General Kenobi. So actually, funny thing, and I'm hoping my friend listens to this, but so given my family and I am Muslim, I saw a girl on Twitter recently come out and make a meme saying salam there in place of hello there, and I absolutely love that meme. I think it's fantastic. But that's my first tangent of the podcast.
Well, I believe that isn't the proper reading Assalamu alaikum?
Yes, it is. But we shorten it to salams.
Okay, salam.
Yeah. So, I'll be honest, I don't know a whole ton about the Galactic Starcruiser beyond what little I've read on the internet and the videos I've seen and a couple of posts by friends who have been there, one being John. So, John, if you could just kind of tell us, what was it like, this experience? Like, what did you walk in expecting? What were the things that were advertised to you to make you want to go?
Well, they had to just say they were going to do it to make me want to go, to be honest. Back in 2017, when they were talking about Galaxy's Edge that they were building over at both Disneyland and Disney World, Disney also mentioned that once Galaxy's Edge was open and running well, they were going to be doing a Star Wars hotel, which was going to be completely immersive and bringing you into the Star Wars universe. And as soon as I heard that, we were working on something similar. Obviously, we didn't have the Disney money. Something similar with MechaCon with Crescent Station in New Orleans. And I was just floored by the announcement that they were going to be doing something like this. And I decided right then and there, as a Star Wars fan, I said, you know what? I don't care how much this thing costs because it's not going to be cheap. I'm going to go to this. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm committing to it now. This was back in 2017. And so I just listened, with bated breath, for anything, any word I could hear about this. And, a lot of Disney files heard about it too, and a lot of them were like, well, it's just going to be a themed hotel. It's not going to be as immersive as you think it is. I'm like, no. They said it's going to be immersive. You're going to feel like you stepped into Star Wars, and I believe that's what it's going to be. And they're like, yeah, don't get your hopes up. And I'm like, I'm going to see what they're offering. And then D23 came along in 2019 when they announced the Galactic Starcruiser, and I was just floored. I was like, nobody ever thought. I thought that they were going to make a Star Wars hotel that seemed like an Imperial base or a Rebel base or something like that. Never in a million years did I think, wait a minute, this is going to be a cruise ship. The whole concept here is you are boarding a cruise ship and going on a cruise as if you were leaving, from New Orleans to go to Belize or something like that. That was the plan with the Galactic Starcruiser. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I want to see how this is. And I said, for them to do this right, this is going to be at least $1,000. So I'm going to start saving now. And at that point, I did start saving. And as I heard more about what they were planning on doing, I was like, oh, hey, this is going to be a little more expensive than I expected. All right, I'm thinking it'll be probably about $1,500 to $2,000. I'm going to shoot for $2,000, save my pennies now, and whatever it is, I'll just use the rest for a plane ticket, and that way I'll just fly to Disney. Well, time went on, and then they announced the prices, and I was like, whew, I'm glad that I didn't lowball this. And I think that caught a lot of people off guard. I was expecting it, totally expecting the price, and I'd already saved a lot of money for it. And I was just like, okay, they definitely are not lowballing it. But that led to my excitement being increased because I knew that at these prices, this was going to be something spectacular. And so, the time came to make our reservations. We made them. We took the last voyage of 2022. We boarded on December 28th and off-boarded on December 30th. And it was a heck of a way to close out 2022, which was a rough year for a lot of people with the economy and everything being as it was. I'm glad that I didn't wait to save up money for it, because when the economy started tanking in 2022, if I'd have been at that time trying to save up money, I probably wouldn't have been able to go. But, as the fates would have it, I was able to go, and we got excited, and by the end of it, we ended up, I wanted some spending money that I didn't have and everything, so we decided instead of flying, we were going to drive, save our plane ticket money for our own use there, because we stayed at an off-site hotel the night before and the night after. But anyway, that's I just felt like I needed to lead all that up to what I was expecting when I walked in. So when I walked into it's not, walk into the Galactic Starcruiser. One does not simply walk into the Galactic Starcruiser. No, you drive up, and there's a terminal area where they take it's from the moment you drive up, it's complete VIP treatment. You have people that come to help you get your stuff out of your baggage, out of your car, and you have a person right there with a pad checking you in, making sure you have everything you need, and then they have a queue that they put people in, and they let a few people in at a time. And so you get in there, and they give you your magic band and everything, and you're like, well, what about my luggage? Your luggage will be waiting for you. Oh, well, okay. So again, full VIP experience. Now, the thing you got to remember about the Galactic Starcruiser is that Disney, since day one, has said that this was going to be a boutique experience. This was going to be a luxury VIP experience. And like with anything, anywhere, you use words like boutique, luxury, VIP. There's going to be a price tag attached to it. And that's with anything. And so I honestly got a little bit more of a VIP treatment than I was expecting. And they were very attentive to everything we could possibly need. So we were waiting in the queue, and just the excitement is building. And then you go to the launch pod, and these doors open, and it's this little launch shuttle pod thing. And you go in there, and the door closes, and you hear engines fire up, and you have these little windows at the top, and you get to actually see your pod lifting off from Earth. And then you go into hyperspace. And then when you come out of hyperspace, you see a star field, and then you see a little robot come up with an arm that comes up, and you hear like a clang, and it grabs onto your shuttle pod. And then it turns you, and you actually see your approach to the Starcruiser. And you're looking at these windows going, wow, I'm about to board that thing. This is really awesome. And so you get there, you hear the loud clanging and stuff of the docking and everything, and then the doors open, and there's a team of cast members right there waiting at the door to escort you on. And each person on that elevator has a specific concierge for their party who approaches you and then proceeds to walk you to your room and explain everything you need to know, basics about the facility and everything. And you walk in, and as soon as those doors open and you walk in, you're just floored. It's beautiful. It is so gorgeous. I love that they themed it the Chandrilla star line because if you watch Andor, anybody that has watched Andor is familiar with Mon Mothma and her residence and how nice and chic and just really high class that whole environment Mon Mothma is in. That is what the Starcruiser was. It was that environment. And you just walked in and everything was beautiful and clean and gleaming and it smelled amazing. And it just, you're kind of overwhelmed as soon as you walk in, because as soon as you walk in, over to your left is the doors to the bridge with a big window where you see the bridge, and you can see the big windows in the bridge, and you see where you're orbiting Chandrilla, and it's just breathtaking. And yeah, it was a little overwhelming when we walked in, and we eventually got taken to our room, and the room was amazing. The bunk beds that people were like, oh, they look so tiny. Travis is 6'2", and he took the top bunk, and he was able to stretch out completely and still had room below his feet and his head. It just looks small. It's not. It goes into the wall. So that
pretty awesome.
Yeah, the rooms, people would bitch about your tiny little room and stuff, but it wasn't. It was very comfortable. We had 4 people in our party. And it was very comfortable. And really, the thing is about this experience, we didn't realize how busy we'd be. You don't spend a lot of time in the room. You go in the room to sleep, to do your restroom business, and that's it. You get dressed, you head right back out. And the thing is that when you get in there, at the end of the day, you're so exhausted. You just drop down on the bed. You knock out. When you wake up next morning, hey, it's time to do a quick SSS and get dressed and get back out there, And so for what the room is used for, it was the perfect size. It really was. And we had 4 adults in there, and everybody had their own bed. And in fact, there's another bed in the room that people don't usually see that's actually folded into the wall. It's a complete twin-size bed that you could pull down where my daughter slept. Pete and Travis each took one of the bunk beds because they both wanted to sleep in the wall. So I was like, I guess that leaves me with the big bed. So
that works out perfectly, huh?
Right. Well, I've got my back to tank, aka my CPAP machine. So, that would have been hard for me to be in one of the bunks with that. So it worked out with me being in a larger bed and being able to put that on the table and have the tubes and stuff. But yeah, it just blew our minds. I'd seen so many videos, photos, pictures and stuff, but none of that could prepare you for being there, because within a half hour, you believe you're on a starship. You believe that you're, as soon as you get checked into your room, you head back out, and you get checked in at 1:00, and they're like, "Hey, if you're hungry, go grab some lunch downstairs in the Crown of Corellia dining room." And you go, and all the food's included. We never went hungry, never went thirsty. All the food is completely included in your package, and it is all top tier gourmet food. I mean, it blew my mind. You think not being in Louisiana, the food might be kind of bland, and we are spoiled here. We have a lot of amazing food. We have the best food in the world, in my opinion. And you travel to other places. Like last year, my wife and I went to Maine, and she was looking forward to some Maine lobster, and she's like, "It was bland. It wasn't great. We do it better in Louisiana." And we were expecting that, but that was not the case at Galactic Starcruiser. The food was just top tier. Amazing stuff. And I'm really hoping that they release a cookbook, at least, because they do have a cookbook for Galaxy's Edge, but I'd love for them to release a cookbook for Galactic Starcruiser, because The bantha steaks. Oh my God, Riz, it was the best steak I've ever eaten in my life. I mean, Travis and I both we're foodies, you know, and we looked at each other. It was like, oh my God, and you get 3 of them, and it's so good.
What is a bantha stick? I'm
I
very.
don't know, but it was delicious. It was the best meat I've ever eaten in my life.
Was it like chicken or beef?
It was beef. It was definitely beef.
Ooh.
I don't know what kind of beef it was.
Good.
I think they may have been fillets, maybe, but I don't know what they marinated them in or what. But oh my God, the bantha steak! I will never, for as long as I live, forget the bantha steaks. The bantha steaks were just utterly phenomenal. And if you ask Travis and Peter what was your favorite food on the house, they'll both say the bantha steaks.
Wow.
Kirsten, of course, who also came with us, she was pescatarian at the time. She ate the seafood, so she was all about the blue shrimp. But oh yeah, for us it was the bantha steaks, and that's the dinner stuff. Right now we're talking about lunch. If you just go down there, lunch was served galley style, and you had these compartmentalized trays, and food portions were perfectly measured out, and the tray could fit certain foods and stuff. And you go and you sit down, you eat. If you want more, you go back and get more. It's all included, you know. But honestly, the way they portion out the food, it's perfect. As soon as you finish eating what's on your plate, you're full. You had your choice of blue and green milk. Both of them were amazing. I think one of them was coconut milk. I'm not sure what the other one. I think the other one might have been or something. I don't know. But it had slight flavors to them, and they were pretty good. And of course there was calf. You got to have calf when you're in Star Wars. You know, and that was this is all within the first half there. And one of the things that my daughter, who is a big fan of sparkling water, loved was there's actually in the atrium area, there's a portion of the wall that has 3 spigots. And one of the spigots is sparkling water on tap. The other is ice water on tap. The other is what they call ambient water, which is room temperature water on tap. So you never needed to go look for water. It's there, right there at the wall. You go, you grab a cup, you pour yourself some water, and you drink it. If you weren't hungry enough to go down to the galley to eat something in the restaurant or anything, they had snacks over in the atrium. Popcorn and they had names for them, obviously, for all these things. These wonderful shortbread cookies that were amazing. And then there was my favorite place in the entire Starcruiser, and I think that was pretty much the favorite haunt of all of my smugglers that went on this trip, was the Sublight Lounge. Sublight Lounge is a bar, and that is the only place aside from the gift shop with the Chandrilla collection where you actually have to spend money. If you buy alcoholic drinks, you have to pay for your alcoholic. If you order non-alcoholic drinks, it's included. You don't pay for that. The bar food, you can order as much bar food as you want. It's all included. And it was, again, gourmet bar food. I've never heard of such a thing, but it was there. Starcruiser.
That's really amazing.
We never went. Oh my God, everything was so incredible. I have video of there's this cheese tray we got. It was a smoked cheese tray. They lift up the little dome and smoke as it walks away from it, and you hear Travis going, "Oh God, that smells so good." And yeah, it was and this is all first night. I mean, we were like, okay, we're gonna go in with an open mind, not sure what we're doing, but we're a couple of smugglers and doing our thing. We're on the Halcyon. I said, basically my story on my guy, Jonas Jenger, his deal was that he had some information that he needed to bring discreetly to Ogabar on Batu, and they decided that the best way to bring this information would be to hide amongst civilians on a pleasure cruise as vacationers. And that was the whole idea, was that we were there pretending to be tourists to go to Batu. And we were just there to fit in with the regular folk. And shortly thereafter, we had what was called bridge training. Everybody gets an opportunity to controls on the bridge, which was fantastic. You get to go into hyperspace and stuff. Oh God, I want to. Just thinking about it, man, I miss it so much. Oh, Riz, you just don't know, man, until you're standing on the bridge of a spacecraft that goes into hyperspace. I've got a video. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. And I have a lot of questions now, but Nate, if you have any questions, I'll go for it first, and I can ask mine.
Just finish real quick about the screens. The viewport, not just the hyperdrive, but you see this huge viewport that it's just from wall to wall, and it's you got spacecraft and stuff. But then when you go out to the atrium, there are side viewports that are linked in to the main viewport. Where if you see a TIE fighter fly across in front of the ship and then come off to the side, you see it past that window on the side. And then, as if that's not enough, every screen in the rooms were linked to the screens on the bridge. Which means if that TIE fighter passes the bridge, passes the atrium, and you happen to have your room on that side of the ship, that TIE fighter's passing by your window. Everything was locked in. Everything was synced up, and it was incredible. I mean,
that's really spectacular.
And I mean, that's not even going into the whole experience side of it. That's the presentation, really.
So, I have some questions, like I said, but Nate, if you have anything you want to start off with, I'd love to have you go first.
I mean, I think he pretty much explained his experience pretty good. I mean,
that was just the introduction. The experience hadn't happened yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I guess just more details about the experience would be great because here's the funny thing. Pardon me. My wife actually kind of did some. My wife is a huge Disney file. Like she loves going to Disney World, but she also knows that, and she likes Star Wars too, and she did some research about the Galactic Starcruiser, and she actually told me that she really wanted to try to get us a room, but we didn't really have the money to do that. So I don't know. I mean, just hearing about even more of the experience would just be great. But I mean, if Riz wants to ask questions, he can go ahead. So. I mean, but yeah, it sounds amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
It really, really was. And the thing is, you touched on the thing about couldn't afford to go. Honestly, and that's the case with more people than not, that the price is a thing. But I believe that given time, people would have done what I did. I mean, I got to jump on it. I was determined to do this as soon as I heard about it. Given time, people would have saved the money and gone. You might not have been able to afford it right out the gate, but had it kept going, I mean, we were planning on going back, and that would have meant starting to save all over from scratch again, but it's doable.
I mean, once I saw your photos from the experience, John, that's what inspired me to start thinking about going, maybe not this year, but definitely next year.
Yeah.
Well, so when I saw the news break that they're closing, that kind of hit me a little bit because I really wanted to go experience it for myself after seeing your experiences on Facebook.
And I think everybody felt that way, honestly, and even the people who were hating on it, I think secretly were just going to hate on it until they got a chance to do it. They were going to hate on it as long as they couldn't, but when the time came, they were going to be happy to go do it.
So,
go ahead.
So I have a question that I'm trying to understand. So, when you entered in the beginning, like when they were bringing you to the spaceship, and they had the concierge at the front, were you guys already attired in a costume, or were y'all in?
We did, yes. We showed up in costume.
And is that the normal? Do people come in costume?
We did. Most people changed once they were on board, but some people did.
Okay. And then once you're on board, I'm assuming you have to remain in costume.
You don't have to do anything.
Oh, really?
You can strip down to shorts and a t-shirt if you want. I mean, that might, pull other people out of the experience,
right.
But I mean, it's your own journey. And then, I mean, we had a guy walking around in steampunk wear with a big top hat, and I mean, he was a nice guy, but Travis kept talking about how the top hat guy kept pulling him out of it, and he was kind of annoyed about that. But I mean, people are people. And then there was one guy who, I actually kept my cool. He came and grabbed a piece of my cosplay and shook it and said, "What's this do?" And I looked at him. The guy was obviously drunk. He'd been drinking the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at him and just said, "It blinks." And I gave him that, Jon Russo look. You've seen it before, Riz. The one that says, "You need to step back now." And he eventually stumbled off. But there were some people who were there because kids wanted to go and they didn't be there, and they were just having a bad time of the whole thing. And that led me to something that I told a lot of people who were considering it. I said, the thing about the Galactic Starcruiser is you get out of it what you put into it. If you go into it thinking that you're going to fully engage and you're going to have the experience of a lifetime, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to have the experience of a lifetime, and you'll never, ever forget it. If you go in there thinking that it's lame and it's overpriced and that you're not going to have fun, you know what? The cast is going to do their best to engage you, but if you're just not doing it, you're not going to have a good time, and you're going to think it's lame, and you're going to think it's overpriced. And that was the case with this guy. In fact, he was such a gentleman that he spun his wheels when we all left the Starcruiser. He spun his Mercedes-Benz tires as he was leaving to make sure everybody knew his exit was at hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes to show what kind of, there were definitely some detractors to the experience.
Yeah, that's interesting because the impression I got reading, and like I said, I don't know as much about it as I should. It just seemed like it was part of the expected protocol that if you're coming to this experience, you're dressed up, you're in costume, presumably have a backstory, like a roleplay type thing. I guess the way I envisioned this when I heard about it and then looked into it more was a really extravagant LARP.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, yeah. But the thing is that not everybody goes there with that intention, and it's not required.
That's very interesting, yeah.
The cast will definitely engage with you more if you are. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people wanted to hear my veteran tales because, my character was a veteran of the rebellion, and I had this one story about that time I got to see Darth Vader, and of course, every time I mentioned, hey, did you hear about the time I got to see Darth Vader? Travis and Pete were all like, oh God, not this story again. That was part of their character thing. My guy kept talking about how he got to see Darth Vader once and nobody believes him. So, eventually it got to the point where, Travis said he was in a gift shop and, he heard some of the cast members talk about, did you hear about the, vet from the rebellion who, saw Darth Vader? Yeah, we got a guy on board. He said he actually saw Darth Vader because they were all in character and everything. And to them, that was really cool. And they engaged with that and it was awesome. And, yeah, I want to go back.
So I guess to kind of segue back to Nate's thing from earlier. So you kind of walked us through the introduction, but what did y'all do for 2 days?
Well, for everybody that might be listening who's still planning on going on the thing, but it's kind of a create your own adventure kind of thing. You have a data pad, which is your phone, or if you don't have a smartphone, they have older iPhones that they loan out that you can use to have part of your experience. And the data pad is central. And in our case, we didn't really mess with the data pad much at first. And then when we went on our bridge training, afterwards, basically our mission when we did bridge training was to safely bring Gaia aboard. And Gaia is the galactic superstar with basically the Celine Dion of Star Wars, who, by the way, oh my God, what a talent. I became a fan. Beautiful voice. Oh, the pipes on that lady. But our mission was to bring her safely aboard. At that point, we met Wraith Cole, who recognized my crew as scoundrel. And we basically, I don't know exactly how the Disney magic works, but we started getting messages from Wraith Cole telling us things that he needed us to do to help him. And so we started doing the little missions that the data pad would give us. And those actually translated down to your Batu excursion the following day. So the first night was basically just getting feet under you, And then you have the big Gaia concert at the dinner. You have this 5-star dinner. Oh my God, so amazing. That was where we had the bantha steaks and lots of other. It was like a 7-course meal. It was so phenomenal. And in the meantime, you've got this concert going on by this diva of the galaxy, Gaia, and it was just beautiful. And before that happens, a Star Destroyer shows up, and a First Order officer by the name of Lieutenant Harmon Croy shows up and says he's going to stay on board because he got report that there were resistance sympathizers on board, and he's there to sniff them out. And he's got a pair of stormtroopers with him, and these stormtroopers just basically just patrol throughout the whole ship, and they were kind of intimidating, to be honest. They were so emotive without saying much. They had pre-programmed things that but they could emote so well without words, just in body language when they were interacting with you and stuff. And there was also the droid. Name. Oh, there's also a concierge droid in your room. She's pretty great. D309, what's her name? Basically, when I say in your room, you have a wall pad, which she comes up and answers you questions, tells you what the planet and blah blah blah. There's one thing that I recently found really cute, and I know that a friend of mine who told me that she wanted to bring her husband for their 20th wedding anniversary to the Galactic Starcruiser, but now they can't. I told her about this. D309 actually has an option for you to do a ceremony where you can renew your vows. And somebody actually videoed it, and I saw it, and it was the sweetest, most wonderful thing. You could hear the lady, you could hear her crying, while she was repeating the words that D309 was telling her to repeat and stuff. And it was just those little things. There's so many little bitty things that just completed it. I have a poster up in my work, and it's one of those motivational posters, and it's a picture of a rose, and on the rose is 1,000 dewdrops, and it says magnificence. And I don't remember the exact wordage of it right now, but it's basically knowing that it's the thousands of tiny details you don't notice that you notice that separates magnificence from mediocrity. And they, at every turn, oh my God, it was so complete. They were so attentive to detail. The cast members were in character the whole time. Like, there was one point where Travis, when we were at dinner, and Travis just started grinning. And I'm like, what? And he says, those two guys behind me? I said, yeah, and it was Wraith Cole and one of the other cast members. He said, they've been talking for the last 5 minutes in universe. No one's there. No one can barely hear them. So they're just having a conversation in the universe. This is so freaking cool. And that was the kind of thing that they stayed in character the entire time and just really made the whole experience true. So, you had Lieutenant. He came to the dinner and stuff and made a spectacle of himself and stuff. Gaia disarmed him because apparently, and when I say disarmed, he was apparently a fan of Gaia. So she was able to get it chill out. Be such a D-bag. And again, this is all the first night. And then we spent a lot of time in the Sublight Lounge, just kind of singing and stuff. Exploring the ship, went down to the engine brig and the climate simulator. Climate simulator is a room on the Starcruiser which, according to the lore, is always programmed to the climate of the destination planet that you're going to, so that you can acclimate yourself before heading down to the planet. If you're from like an ice world with Pantora, you go spend a little time in the climate simulator, get your body used to the warmer climate before you go down to Batu, which is cool.
That's really awesome. That they thought of all these different details.
Right. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, this is Disney. The truth of the matter is, it's a pavilion that's open to the outside.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's where you can get some fresh air, but they call it the climate simulator. And, that really cool. In fact, when you the next day they have shuttles that run from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Back and forth from Batuu to the ship. And when you go, before you don't just go get on the shuttle. You go into the climate simulator. People to put on the shuttle. They give everyone a little pin, which is it's in fact I have it right here. It says Sigil of the Select. Your journey honored. And they tell you, put this pin on, and when you're down on Batuu, people will know that you were with the Starcruiser, which was basically Starcruiser speak of, this is your VIP badge. So you get into the waiting area, and then the door opens, and you get into the shuttle. And people have always thought, oh, it's a box truck. Yeah, it's a box truck. It's a box truck to the tune of $1 million per truck that they put into making this thing seem like a shuttlecraft. I actually have a good authority that those 3 trucks that they did cost $3 million.
That is insane.
That's the kind of dedication that Disney put into this thing. And frankly, you know, the first ride to Batuu, you couldn't really tell you were on a truck. You just felt like you were on a ship. You felt like you were on a shuttle. It was smooth, and we got there, and you had a droid talking to you. It was playing the hottest mixes from Oga's Cantina down on Batuu. And so you get down to the planet, and then you go out to Galaxy's Edge. Well, with your VIP badge, your little Fast Pass badge, you don't have to wait in lines. Not very long lines, anyway. First thing we did when we went down, I said, before there's a lot of crowd, Rise of the Resistance. So we go, and a cast member says, no, this is your line over here. And there's this big empty queue. And we just go straight on in. And as soon as we got there, like, people that were in line, they would let us skip right. Like with MechaCon, how we did the gold passes.
Yep.
You went ahead. That was part of the VIP experience. So we got to get on there very quick. And of course we experienced the ride like it's just ridiculous. And then immediately after, I wanted to go to Smuggler. That too, same exact thing. As soon as we got there, you know, basically they told everybody else, hang on a second, these guys got to come. And because they knew we had a limited amount of surface, you know, before we had to go back up to the Starcruiser. So we went on Smuggler's Run, which was great. And they actually have a little extra thing on Smuggler's Run at the end that says, oh, you're some of those fancy Starcruisers. Well, we'll be in touch as we deliver them. And you're like, wait, what? So apparently they knew when we went into the pod, Smuggler's Run, that, hey, these are Halcyon people, put the Halcyon program on. So at the end of the ride, we got a special message from Hondo that, you know, because we were on the Starcruiser. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, okay, that's not for everybody. That's really cool. So then you get out and you see that your data pad has all kinds of missions on the surface of the planet. So you go and you explore Batuu. But so we get back to the ship, and as soon as we get to the ship, Wraith Cole is like, hey, okay, we have Hondo's incoming. We gotta take this bridge. And we're like, wait, what? And he's like, we have to, you know, commandeer the bridge. But if the crew comes in, just tell them that I was trying to show y'all some controls and stuff. Like, okay. So we use what we learned in bridge training from the night before to continue our mission that we had from Batuu with Hondo as he delivers the cargo that we stole in Smuggler's Run to the Halcyon. And, you know, I don't want to say too much about it because I spoil it for people. But, you know, it was so immersive that they actually blended the experience of being at Galaxy's Edge with being on the Halcyon. And it was just, by the time we left, it was 44 hours total. By the time we left, it felt like 5 days. We did so much in such a short time. And all of it was just completely immersive in Star Wars. We lived Star Wars. We lived a week of Star Wars in 2 days. And it was an unforgettable experience. I ugly cried at the end of it. I mean, I was getting hugged from the mates and stuff. Captain Keevan, I think she kind of started to tear up too when she saw my old butt, crying like I was and everything. But I was not ashamed. I was ugly crying. I was thanking them all for the experience of a lifetime. told them I waited 50 years to do something like that, to experience that, and they did not disappoint. And every single person I'm eternally grateful to that served on that ship, every single cast member, they gave me a life-changing experience. And I'm deeply saddened that so many people will never get to know this experience. It's tragic, and in my opinion, that they're closing it before people can do it.
Yeah, it really sucks because, like I said earlier, after seeing your photos earlier this year, I really was, early planning and thinking that, maybe a couple of years from now, I would drag Nathan and a couple other friends and we'd go out there and experience it. So to, not have that opportunity anymore, to me, it really sucks. And
it really sounds like, something on a whole new level, because if there's one thing that, and I say this like I've been to Galaxy's Edge 3 times now. If there's one thing that Disney can do, they do a really good job at sucking you into the experience. I've one of my favorite things to do at Galaxy's Edge, and this is like my wife's favorite ride too, is the Rise of Resistance, where where you're supposed to be simulating, you and the people who are riding are supposed to be people who have just joined the Resistance. They simulate as if you've been captured by the First Order, or
it's when those doors open and you walk into that hangar and you see that big window with that Star Destroyer outside. Oh my God, that was a for me.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's a photo that Peter took of me and Travis looking around, and he calls it pure joie. Because it's just the two of us in heaven, in that hangar, just looking at everything. And of course, the First Order officer would document your failure. But no, I get it, man. I get it.
Just like the experience that you described though from Galactic Starcruiser, though, that sounds like something on a whole new level. I mean, and I'm really just hoping that Disney can do something just like that, because I got to give Disney credit when it comes to these rides. It really does feel like you're in Star Wars with some of these rides.
Yeah, this was unprecedented. No one's ever done anything like that. And I know because in my limited capacity, with MechaCon, again, I tried Crescent Station, and I knew I had to, rely a lot on people's imaginations. Disney made it to where, yes, as long as you put the imagination in, complete the experience. But they did a lot of the work. And it's like I said, unprecedented. No one's ever done anything like this before. And Disney says it was a learning experience. I feel like just the timing was, it came out at the wrong time in human history.
Yep.
It was before its time, maybe? No, I don't think it was before its time. I just think that's bad between it opening at the end of a pandemic and the economy tanking like it did in 2022. It just, the timing was bad, because when they first started planning this back in 2017, economy was on the rise. People were doing good. People were able to have a little extra spending money, and they were on track for, hey, people can pay this if they really want to. And frankly, if there hadn't been a pandemic, the economy hadn't dropped, there'd been more people that would have been able to get cruises. But when you're paying 3 times the amount for chicken, 4 times the amount for bread, you got to survive before you go on Galactic Starcruiser. I was fortunate because I saved before the economy came. And people have all their theories. There's so many armchair theorists about why the Galactic, and the thing is that financially, it was not a success for Disney.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons for that. But in every other way, it was a phenomenal success. And Disney sees it that way. In everything they tried to do, everything they tried to accomplish, they did. And they did it with 5 stars. And, and Disney knows that. The problem is, the pandemic made people wary about booking vacations. So people were not in a rush to do it. When people finally started to feel comfortable to book vacations, suddenly they found themselves pinching pennies because everything, the cost of living was skyrocketing while the wages were staying the same. Don't want to get into all that, but that's part of it. Some people say it was the theme. Oh, well, Disney should know better than the universe. Let me explain something about the way things work when it comes to planning these things. And again, my experience with MechaCon puts me in with this. 2017, we moved from the Hilton Riverside to the Hyatt Regency, and that was when we introduced Crescent Station. That's not when we started planning Crescent Station. Crescent Station has been in the planning since 2000. It was something that I was going to try to do with the Hilton in 2014. I saw a place to do it, so we adapted it and moved it there. The thing is that you have to plan these things in advance. Disney, when they bought Star Wars in 2013, decided they were going to do a sequel trilogy. They were going to do a part of Disney World that was going to be a land, and they were going to do all these things for it. But what they were going to do was they were going to do something new. They were going to make a new trilogy, and they were going to base it on that because it's Star Wars, and everybody loves Star Wars. When they made this trilogy, that theme was what they were going to carry their characters. That's their IP, and so when they started planning this stuff while these movies were being made, before the first one even came out in 2015, all the plans were being set down for Galaxy's Edge to take place in that era. The plans were being made for the Galactic Starcruiser to take place in that era. And by the time Rise of Skywalker came out and Galaxy's Edge was opening, people were just like, well, hey, a lot of people were like, well, we're not big fans of this sequel. Yeah, well, hey, look, it's Batu. We got the first Star Kylo Ren and stuff. Yay. Because Disney was expecting it to be a hit. And honestly, if you look at the way Star Wars goes, in 20 years, it will be. The kids who saw it now, when they're adults, they're gonna love it just the way the people are now about the prequels. I remember the prequels. I remember people hating on them. I remember people, people talk about how Ahmed Best got death threats. Yeah, he did. I remember when it was happening.
Jake Lloyd got death threats too.
Yeah.
To the point where he's not an actor.
I remember that era really well. Really? He's not?
No.
Yeah.
Jake Lloyd stopped.
Wow.
But even Hayden Christensen stopped acting for a while. And I'm so glad that he and Ahmed Best have finally gotten the reception of the fandom that they deserve. Because, frankly, they were told to do a job and they did the job exactly the job with what they did. They never deserved any of the hate they got. But I digress. The point I'm making with that is that people who used to crap all over the prequels now, it's the sacred text, and in 20 years, that's how people are going to be with the sequel trilogy. They're going to be like, the sacred text, because you know what's going to happen? Just the same way Clone Wars came along and made you rethink how you saw the prequels, that's what's going to happen with the sequels. The stuff that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau work on right now, put your the sequels in a whole new perspective. And by the time they're all said and done, and they filled in a lot of the blanks, people are going to be like, these movies aren't bad.
Yeah, because it's something that me and Nate were discussing in a different podcast in the future. But this is something that I've noticed throughout Star Wars is, you're right. 20 years ago, prequels sucked. I was one of the people that said I didn't like any of the sequels, but then because Jon Russo got me into Clone Wars,
change your perspective.
It changed my perspective quite a bit. And, Clone Wars, Rebels, that really set up. And, in the first podcast we did for Jedi Squadron, Nate, you remember this, I said my favorite piece of history, like if you were to ask me what my favorite war is across anything, a lot of people might say World War II, World War I, or whatever. My answer without missing a beat would have been Clone Wars, because that was just a phenomenal, interesting war that I found very fascinating to me.
Right. And I mean, the thing is that Galactic Starcruiser actually gives you a whole perspective of the sequel trilogy as well. I wasn't a fan. I didn't hate on it like people did. I thought that what Rian Johnson did was gutsy And the thing that I like the most about The Last Jedi is at the end, it made me feel like I felt when I was a kid and saw Empire. Our heroes weren't safe, that the entire Resistance could fit on the Millennium Falcon, that they just weren't safe. It's like, how do you overcome these overwhelming odds? Oh my God, what are our heroes going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt at the end of The Last Jedi. But other than that, Rise of Skywalker came out, I hated it. I thought it was terrible. It's still, to me, not a great movie. But
Yeah,
I had to watch it, and I got a little misty-eyed by the end. And part of it was part of the experience on the Starcruiser. Sorry, I share my office with the dog. Text my wife to come get him. Oh, there she is. Come get him, please. Thank you.
all the time. I've just been thinking that you have a Chewbacca with you or something.
Use my word. But
You know, we've been hearing the dog for a while. I'm like, dang, this is it's like John and Chewbacca hanging out in the office.
yeah, he's a full size German Shepherd, so we really don't have any place else in his kennel, so it's in my office, which I'm fine with. He's my buddy. He's my best friend.
Yeah.
I hang out with. But so anyway, what I was saying about how the Galactic Starcruiser made me change my opinion of the sequel trilogy, it was little moments. Like, one of the things is they had an actor that was portraying Rey on board Starcruiser, and she looked a lot like Daisy and stuff. But we weren't on the Resistance track, and we weren't on the First Order track. Travis and I were just wandering around, and we wandered into the climate simulator, and we happened upon a Resistance meeting where Rey was holding a meeting with all the people who were sympathetic to the Resistance. And so Travis and I decided we were just going to kind of sit against the wall and observe, and nobody really questioned that we were in there. And at the end of it, when everyone was filing out, the actress who played Rey kind of walked close to me. And I had a moment, I felt compelled, and I acted on it. And I said, "Hey, Rey?" And she turned and looked at me, she goes, "Yes?" I said, "May the Force be with you." And she just kind of gives me a slight smile and says, "And with you." And then she walked away. And that exchange,
That's really awesome.
magical to me. In that moment, not only was I in Star Wars, but I was talking to Rey. And I can't put it into words, really. It was just a core memory was formed there that I will never forget. Doesn't matter that it was Rey. And
Yeah.
I lived a moment where I got to say the word to Rey. And it was changing the way I felt about the sequel trilogy, the way I felt about the characters. Kylo Ren does make an appearance. I'm not going to say much about that. But I will say that afterwards, I went back and watched the films again. And I was kind of curious how I was going to feel watching the sequel trilogy again after having been on the Starcruiser. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than before because I lived in that part of Star Wars I lived in the sequel era for 2 days. Just 2 days. It was enough to now make that something that I've grown from tolerating to a flourishing love for. In fact, I hated Resistance, the animated series, when it came out. I didn't like it. I recently watched the first episode again, and I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of ready to watch it now. And I think that my perspective of that series has changed as well. And I'm going to enjoy seeing the First Order on board the Colossus again and that stuff, playing out. Because it's going to remind me of my own, And the Starcruiser is what did that. It really enhanced my appreciation for the recent Star Wars we've had. And of course, with what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing, they're planting all the seeds to make more sense of the sequel trilogy. Okay, Chewie, thank you. And I think that, I really wish, again, I've said this a few times now, I really wish people would have had the opportunity to. It was Disney Magic at its finest, and it'll be really hard pressed to see if Disney does anything near as ambitious as this again, not for a while anyway. And it saddens me a lot.
Do you think? So there are a lot of people on media saying this should have been set in either the prequel or the original trilogy time frame. What do you think?
I think if you want to be safe, you do it in the original time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Disney was looking at safe when they bought it. I think they wanted to be innovative. I think they wanted to take the next step, not regurgitate the same thing. Because, look, I've read the Legend person. Let's face it, it kind of got a little repetitive after a while. I mean, Yuuzhan Vong aside, it was all the same characters in the same setting, in the same universe. There weren't a lot of risks being taken because everybody was trying to stay within the established canon, which we see how that turned out for. But, they took a chance, and I gotta respect that they took a chance on something. And I wish that Colin Trevorrow's film would have had an. I think that because of the backlash they got from Last Jedi, they decided to go by going back to J.J. Abrams, basically remade 4 films again. But I think that again, by the time Disney realized that the fandom wasn't warming up to the sequel trilogy, it was too late. By then, it was too late. All the die had been cast. All the park was already being built for a sequel era Batuu. The hotel was already being built for a sequel era Starcruiser. And I think that they kind of held to their guns. And I think part of what led to the decision to close down the Star was they see now that the Mandalorian era, the New Republic era, is their cash cow. And there's no way to have redone the Starcruiser to rebrand it without it jarring the whole experience with that. For me, an ideal situation, if they're going to do a rebranding of all of that, would be to, if they're going to shut down a Starcruiser, shut down a Starcruiser. Say Starcruiser as you know it is no longer going to happen. And then in a few months, put out word that, hey, Galaxy's Edge is closing for renovation for a while. And then 2 or 3 months later, Galaxy's Edge reopens, rethemed to their current New Republic era, whatever they want to do. And they reopen Starcruiser 6 months later in that same time frame, which was when it was during the era of the novel Princess and the Scoundrel, where Chandrila Starlines had just bought the cruise ship and had just basically, because it was an Empire ship before, and it would have been, it would be a freshly remodeled Chandrila Starline ship, not one that's been in service 30 years on the Chandrila Starlines. To me, that would have been an ideal situation. Will that happen? Probably not, but I mean, one can still hope. I'm really hoping they don't tear the building down. I really still do something.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do something with it because they put a lot of money into that building.
Well, they did.
I mean,
$400 million.
They could make it a stripped down hotel version where just another room for the night.
But here's the other thing too. How do you do that without all the people who went going back and feeling like it's less than what it was? Disney's not in the habit of stepping down from things. Disney likes to push and go further. And if something doesn't work, rather than dial it back, they'll change it to something that does work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't foresee them dialing it back any from what it was initially. But yeah, I'm sure you can hear my voice. I'm very passionate about stuff.
Yeah, that's the part I really want to hit on with getting that passion out in the world in a way that people could hear it. Because, written word, posting it, it's one thing, but to hear your experiences, I mean, I really wish I could have gone and experienced it as well.
And
Hearing you talk about it, like that, hearing you talk for the last hour or so about your experiences, that gives me another fresh light into what could have been for me and Nate and a couple other friends, if we had gone to it.
And honestly, if the world hadn't changed in 2020 like it did, I think that it'd still be open. I really think that we were on track for a really wonderful thing, and just the universe decided now's not the time. I don't know. Things with Star Wars are changing. We got, as we recently found out, we've got a huge expanded thing coming out with Star Wars, where Disney is going to go with the park and the remnants of the Starcruiser. Who knows? But Disney. Bob Iger, I don't blame him for what he did. I really wish that he had done differently, but his job was to come in and save, like, what was it, $4.4 billion?
Mm-hmm.
And he did his job. I can't be angry at Disney for saying, hey, this isn't working. I think that they just needed to give it more time. I think that the bookings would have gone back up. To me, it was a no-brainer that bookings started to diminish as bread got more expensive, as chicken got more expensive, as everything got more expensive. People have to live life before, on a vacation.
100% agreed.
What's that?
I said 100% agreed.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that they said was the problem was, well, we didn't get the repeat business we expected. Yeah, you were, you just didn't get time. I mean, when our last day there, when we were having breakfast in the Crown of Corellia dining room, I looked around and I said to the guys, no, this can't be the one and only time. This can't be a one and done. We got to come back. And they're like, we agree. And I was like, you know what? Let's make a pact right now. We will come back in 5 years. So we will start saving now. I said, figure it's about $1,300 a person. If we start saving now in 5 years, that's totally doable. If you think about that, I say you're talking about less than $300 a year to save.
Yeah.
And we can do that. We can all do that. And everybody's like, yeah, we totally can do that. So, all right, awesome. Next year, in 5 years, last weekend of the year, we're going to do this again. And we made that agreement right then and there. There's a lot of withdrawal that getting off Star Cruiser because Peter and I were like, I don't know if I can, got to go back. Star Trek fans will understand it from the movie Star Trek Generations. Character Tolian Thorin, who came out of the Nexus, just had this overwhelming urge to go back no matter what, which led to the death of Captain Kirk. But he just had this overwhelming need to get back there. That's kind of how it felt with the Starcruiser, because it was all our fantasies, childhood, throughout our entire lives of this galaxy far, far away come to fruition, come to life. And, when you go back, you hear about post-con depression after a convention weekend. Everybody's a little depressed because, the convention's over, good times are over, and you have to go back to the world. Imagine that times 100.
Oh, Lord.
That's how it was. There are groups on Facebook called post-voyage support groups, and we basically talk about our voyages, and that group helped keep my sanity, with all of this, because if I didn't have them to talk about the memories with and talk about everything with, and people go, yeah, that was, you build a community, and that's one of the things that this experience has done, that every person who has engaged and been a part of this in a positive manner is a part of these communities, and they will all agree that I don't know how I would have coped with the decompression of the Starcruiser without, and in fact, I have a friend of mine who was able to book a passage, and I'm kind of preparing her, and I already gave her the links to it. So I'll be there. I'll be there to give you a hug when you get back.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of things. But you know what I do want to say about closure of Star and the fans, especially the fans who've been hating on day one and saying all manner of unsavory things about an experience they never even, all these armchair theorists and all these armchair quarterbacks who thought they knew what they were talking about. And said, oh, the Star Wars hotel, the concrete bunker, you can't leave. Like, first off, you have no idea, people. And secondly, for those of you who were smiling and taking a victory lap when the announcement was closing, you're just making a clown of yourself because nobody won. Not a single one of us won in this situation. I didn't win.
Yeah.
You didn't win. Disney didn't win. Star Wars didn't win. Nobody won. This was a loss all around. And I hope that every one of those people who are taking that victory lap saying, I knew it was going to fail, you know what? Congratulations. You were right. You still didn't win. We all lost.
Yeah, because even if they are taking the victory lap, there's still the fandom lost something. Like, it always sucks. Even if you don't like it, when something in our fandom, any fandom, it's not met with the right reception, it's closed down, or it's just lost forever, it's a hole. And that's a hole that I think this fandom now has to deal with. And that's sad, that we have this big hole that we have to try and figure out how to deal with this now.
It's sad that we just have a fandom that, at this point, just actively wants to see Star Wars fail. Like, it just, I don't know, that breaks my heart, honestly.
I bring it back to the EU purists, and it's like all these people who haven't gotten over the fact that Disney bought Star Wars, and they hate everything that Disney has put out there. It's like, okay, y'all, it's been 10 years. Time to let it go.
Yeah.
Disney's got Star Wars. They're doing stuff with it, whether you like it or not. It's irrelevant. They are not letting the property sit. More has happened with Star Wars in the last 10 years than in the last 40 years combined. And like it or hate it, Disney, is definitely doing something.
Right.
And I think that with anything, footing is going to be shaky at first, but once you get your sea legs, which is, I think, exactly what they found with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, once you get your sea legs, it's going to be spectacular. You're starting to see what Disney can really do with Star Wars. And all the people hate to this day everything that Disney does and stuff, and still hanging on to bring back the EU legends and stuff. It's like, look, those were great for their time, but I completely understood when Disney said that they were getting rid of all of Legends and they were just keeping the movies and the Clone Wars, and that was it. I got it. I figured I was like, yeah, I totally get that. They just bought a new property. They don't want to be bogged down by this history that all these other people made that wasn't George Lucas. So they took what George Lucas made and said, this is our canon from here on.
I can't blame them because the Legends history is so convoluted, and half the stuff that they complain about in the new canon is stuff that the Legends continuity is just as guilty of. Like, they complain about how Palpatine got brought back in The Rise of Skywalker. There's a clone of Palpatine in the Thrawn trilogy, which is one of the most beloved.
All from the Dark Empire.
One of the most beloved novel series. They complain about how, like, there were still, like, Kylo Ren, like, defeated the new Jedi Order, and, a new thing took over, disregarding the fact that, like, there's a whole nother era past Luke's time where his Jedi Order has been wiped out by another empire. Like, I mean, 90% of the stuff that they complain about in this new canon is stuff that's there in the EU. And
you know what's one of the things that I find hilarious now with those complaints is now that Filoni and Favreau have been cherry picking from the and taking certain elements and bringing them into canon, which should be making people ecstatic. They're going, oh, well, they're just stealing stuff from the EU. They should have just done that to begin with. It's like, really? Or can you just not ever be happy? Is there, nothing, they're giving you exactly what you want. Still finding a way to bitch about it.
But see, the thing is, Favreau and Filoni are not just cherry picking, but I think they're keeping a very tight lid on the continuity to not have things that maybe not in sync, maybe plot holes. They're trying to eliminate all that because, I don't know a lot about the Legends continuity all that much. I listened to Nathan's podcast on Thinker Mind's Eye last week, and, just listen to that one explanation of that book. That tells me that there's a lot of issues in the Legends continuity that you can never reconcile if you keep everything from that continuity in play.
Right.
Like, I think Nate said in that podcast that, Luke and Leia were not meant to be siblings at that point in time, because at that point in time there was no indication of it, but they were more kind of being geared to be possible lovers in the future. Like, do we really think a continuity that has those kind of problems is better than what's going on right now? And I think the answer is no. I think what we're doing right now, while there's some obvious issues with it still, I think we're moving in the right direction at least.
Yeah. And like I said, like with anything that's their first time out, they're going to have trouble, they're going to be a little wobbly until they get their sea legs.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Disney. And if you really think about, somebody actually posted today, do you think that Disney will sell Star Wars to Warner Brothers? I was like, out of your mind? And it's like, the thing is, when I heard that Disney bought Star Wars, I was over the moon ecstatic. People were like, what? Disney? Oh my God, the Little Mermaid people? And it's like, y'all don't understand. Any other company that would have had Star Wars was going to mismanage it. Disney was the only logical choice for Lucas to sell to. Because if he'd have sold to New Line, if he'd have sold to Warner Brothers, if he'd have sold to Universal or Paramount, you'd have gotten, if it was Paramount, you'd have gotten Star Wars, Rise of the Beasts.
Mm-hmm.
If it had been, if Fox, well, I don't even want to talk about what Fox would have done with it if they had bought the franchise, because they mismanaged Aliens, Predator, and Terminator. I mean, all these other companies have mismanaged their own properties so much. None of them were going to do Star Wars right, except for Disney. I believe that from the core of my being, and I believe that from the day that I heard about the sale. And I think George Lucas made the right choice, the right call. Putting Kathleen Kennedy in charge, not so sure, but I think selling to Disney was the right call, and I think Disney was where Star Wars logically needed to evolve to.
Yeah.
And Galaxy's Edge is proof positive of that. No one else, not even Universal, would have done quite the job that Disney did.
Well, again, you have the Disney Imagineers. That's an entire core of people dedicated to just making stuff like this. And that alone means whatever experience they make at the parks is going to be a superior quality to anything you get anywhere else. I'm sorry to say it, but it's just a fact of nature to me.
Oh, I know people who live in Orlando passes, and they'll tell you the difference is there when you go to Universal versus you go to Disney. Just you can see it in the corners, in the areas that people don't normally look. You can see the difference in the just maintenance and stuff like that. I'm not saying that Universal's nasty by any sense, but I'm just saying that their attention to all tiny little details, like I talked about with that poster, not as high up there as Disney. And the Starcruiser was their magnum opus, and it's a shame that the fandom didn't embrace it the way they did. It's a shame that the pandemic came when it did. It's a shame when it did. It was just a perfect storm of things that just led Bob Iger to go, no, I know some people like this. A lot of people seem to hate it, but we could save a lot of money if we just shutter it. And that's what they did. They made a business call, and I got to respect it. Bitching about it's not going to change anything. Lamenting about it's not going to change. Heartbroken, saddened by it? Absolutely. Do I understand why they did it? Absolutely. Do I wish that they would change it? Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is it comes down to dollars. And let's face it, CEOs and bean counters never felt the pressure from the economy tanking the way folks like us did. And they probably didn't even factor it in They just were like, oh, well, Star Wars fans aren't buying return trips. Well, they weren't the ones struggling to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney in general is just kind of going through a bit of an. I know this isn't entirely related to Star Wars, but Disney is kind of in a similar era of where its brand is being kind of eroded. Like, back when I was a kid, it was kind of being eroded by them releasing a bunch of direct-to-video sequels that aren't really that great.
The Michael Eisner era.
And now they're in a similar era where they're now spamming us with a bunch of, live-action remakes of their old movies, like one that just got released, The Little Mermaid, which, I mean, they're not as bad.
Oh, that movie was fantastic. Don't you say a bad thing about that movie. I went and saw that movie the other night, and it was beautiful.
No, I know. It's just, like, a lot of people want to see a bit more variety instead of, like, remakes of what they've already done, and some of them are good. I mean, I'm sure The Little Mermaid is great, and I liked Aladdin.
Well, I will say this about Little Mermaid, is that they largely kept to the story that everyone knows, but they did do something. They did change some things, and I like the changes that they made to make it. This isn't a spoiler, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. One of the things that they did was they changed the setting of Little Mermaid from Denmark to Brazil.
That's interesting.
And by doing that, you had a whole new culture that could be shown when Ariel is learning about the human world. A lot more colorful culture, a lot more musically inclined culture, and I thought that was a brilliant change that they made to the movie. That was just, they didn't have to do it. Some people say, oh, they did it because they want to be woke. No, I think they did it because they wanted to freshen up the story a little bit. I didn't think you needed to stay in Denmark.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in the same place. It could be a different altogether.
Right, and
I'm not going to badmouth the movie. I haven't seen it. My point was that, like, the live-action remakes are more like just not to say that they're all bad. Like, I mean, none of them are nearly as bad as their direct-to-video sequels that they made. But it's like people, like, in general, Disney has just kind of developed a reputation of, like, rehashing a lot of what people already like instead of trying to do different things. Like, that was my main point.
Take the same.
Yeah.
And that, in a lot of ways, is hurting Disney as well, which might have had an indirect thing to do with, like, them being in a financial position where they might have to shut this down on top of the pandemic and everything.
Right. Well, I mean, and the thing is, and I was working the stock during Disney took a hit. Disney took a hard hit by them having to close down the parks like they did for months at a time like they did. That was a huge financial for Disney. And honestly, I just think that what it came down to was Iger needed to cut some corners, and the Starcruiser. It's really, I know that doesn't, that doesn't glorify it in any way, shape, or form. Fortunately, it was a victim of budget cuts. That's what it came down to. And they just said instead of lessening, it's going to close. Because if they would try cutting corners here and there, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been the right route to take.
Yeah.
So, from someone who had an event that I closed it before I could let it become something it wasn't meant to be, I get that. Honestly, I'm not glad at all about them closing the Starcruiser, but I'm glad they're doing that instead of cutting corners and cheapening it into a shell of what it was before.
Man, John, it sounds really familiar to me.
Yeah. It's true. That's what it comes down to. Because Iger, he toured parks. He toured the Starcruiser. He was going around. I got friends that work. He was going around looking to save money on it. And when he got to the Starcruiser, people got nervous. Like, he really can't cut things from this without cheapening the experience. And I think Iger realized that. And Iger said, well, can't keep the experience, can't cut the experience down, so we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I made a post not long ago about how I was taking the closure of the Starcruiser extremely hard, and I came to realize that part of that was because of my own feelings about having MechaCon,
Mm-hmm.
and because there's a lot of similarities there, and it hurts. It hurts a lot, and I realize that a lot of people who saw MechaCon as their yearly event, I know it hurt a lot of people, but I did what I felt needed to be done to preserve the memory of MechaCon to where people would always remember MechaCon at 1 2. I kind of feel like this is the same thing with Starkers. By closing it instead of cutting corners, they're at least preserving its legacy.
Yeah.
In 10 years' time, it's going to become, the stuff of legends. People can be like, hey, remember when they did the hotel, Galactic Starcruiser? Yeah. Do you ever, anybody ever went? Yeah, I do. And he said it was the most, and it's just one of those things. It's going to go into legend as one of the most ambitious, amazing Star Wars experiences that anybody could have. And until Disney does something similar again, it's going to be a real loss to the fandom. So all the people taking victory laps, just keep on smiling because you have no idea what yours are.
And that's really deep, Son. I'm so thankful that we had a chance to get you on here because this is exactly what I was kind of thinking needs to be put out into the world about the experience to kind of combat the stuff where people are saying, oh, it might be too expensive, it was just a gimmick, it wasn't worth it, or any of the other things that were coming out of it, like, I'm so glad we got a chance to bring you on here for this.
Well, I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity. If I'd have known they were going to close the Starcruiser, I'd have been shouting this from the rooftops, making sure everybody knew, go do this before it's too late.
Yeah.
I didn't, it caught me out of left field. I never in a million years. And by the time that it was announced, I was shook by it that, the final voyages when they went live on the 26th, what was that, day before yesterday? They sold out in a matter of hours. And,
that's not surprising.
people say, oh, well, that's just because it was the final show. Yeah, because people knew that was their one and only opportunity.
Yeah.
They better get going, And to my friend who was able to book it, I'm very happy for her, and I hope the stars light her way to the most amazing experience of her life. I know they will. And to all the cast and actors who I've actually come to know some of them on announcement. I wish them all the best. I hope that they'll find new places at Galaxy's Edge. I really hope that some of these characters, I would love for them to do a Celine Dion style concert hall where people go into Galaxy, a Gaia show, and be able to see Gaia and race again. Because these characters became your friend in this experience that you had. Much like, I don't know how it was for other people. I was a lonely child. I spent a lot of time in my playing with my Star Wars toys. And those figures were my friends. Chewbacca, Han Solo, Leia, Luke Skywalker, C-3PO, R2-D2, Ben Kenobi, all of them, they were my friends. They were the ones that I knew after I had a really crappy day at school. Play with my action figures and everything right. Yeah. This was that, but for adults. And these were living, breathing characterizations that you came to love. And as heartbreaking as this is, I still have the hope that I'll be able to see them again at somewhere. And I hope that Disney will at least give us.
We're hoping for you, John, and I'm hoping that we do get the chance one day to check it out ourselves because, like I've been saying for the last bit, this is something I really regret we couldn't get a chance to do. Yeah. And it's just, it's so crazy that it's ending as quick as it began, honestly. Like,
Just timing. Timing.
yeah.
I really think it's just the economy and just they really coming off of the loss that they had in the stocks and stuff due to the pandemic. They really needed a super win with this, and the economy just prohibited that from happening.
Yeah.
You know.
So, in closing, I think we're kind of getting to the end of our time for the
sorry, I know I can go on long.
No, you're good. You're good. Want to try and wrap up soon. John, do you have any last words you'd want to say about? I know you said a lot of last words about it, but do you have anything you'd want to say in closing about your experience, the event, things you're hopeful for to see in the future? Anything that you want to say to our viewers, listeners, in the audience?
I have faith in Disney. They misstepped. They did, and the marketing for this was horrendous. But I think at the end of the day, Disney knows what they have. They want to deliver something great to the fans. They want to deliver Star Wars and I think that people, especially the people who've been hating on them for the last 10 years, it's time to realize, okay, it's been 10 years, griped enough. Give them a chance. I know that you say you gave a sequel, but you know what? They were in their infancy. They didn't know what they were doing. They're finally putting the right people in the right places to do the right things, and we're getting some great content for it. And I just think that it's only going to get better and bigger and better from here. And I think that, I think Disney needs to be cut some slack after this and give them a chance to fix their missteps, do a better job. And, the fans will never be 100% happy. There's way too much. But I just hope that people would at least give them a chance before they start bitching and complaining about it like they did with this hotel. Just give it a chance. Experience it for yourself before you start the negative. And I know that's not going to happen because that's the nature of the fandom. But that's my wish. I wish that people would just give Disney another chance. Everybody deserves a second chance. Still to this day think Disney is the logical to have taken possession from George Lucas. And the future can be bright as long as you faith. So I have faith in Disney. I hope other people share that faith with me, that they'll continue to make Star Wars bigger and better despite whatever missteps we're dealing with in the process.
Yeah. And I'll go on the record and say I have faith in Disney. I think Nathan will also agree with me on that. We see a bright future for that coming out, and I see it being really good. But we are hitting the end of time, so Don,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really appreciate having you. It's our honor to have you on here. And
well, I just want to put it out there. I'm a big Star Wars fan. If come in on any topics or something Star Wars you guys are talking, participate. I enjoy this.
I already decided that when we do our first Clone Wars review, I'm dragging you in because I feel like it's symbolic that the person who got me Clone Wars be present. Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
So, yeah. So with that, thanks for your time today, John. And for those of you listening back at home, stay tuned for the next episode. Nathan and I are going to be delving into what is the correct order to watch Star Wars movies in. And
I got thoughts on that. So you need to come. I'm going to send you a list. I just recently came up with a method, and it was phenomenal.
Well, send it to me, and we'll take a look, and we'll put it into our next episode.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, but thanks everyone. As always, definitely check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Give us a rating, comment, like, whatever the medium allows you to do. And thank you. May the force be with you, and we will talk to you all soon.
As they say in the Galactic Starcruiser, may the stars light your way. Taboo Ate.